The following podcast is provided by Era Living, innovator in residential retirement options since 1987. And welcome back, everyone, to Answers for Elders Radio Network, heard across the USA. And we have had an amazing hour talking about planning for the future. And those of you that I know that are in their late 60s, early 70s, mid 70s, if you haven't thought about your next chapter in life, we encourage you to start thinking about it. And obviously, we're talking about if you think that you might want to explore the idea of senior living. There's all types of ways and considerations that you had to look at in order to see if you're a fit or if bringing in help to the home is more preferable to you. Either way, there's a lot of planning, and the more planning that you can do in advance, the more peaceful it is through the process. And we're very, very glad to have our wonderful guest, my friend Tina Hall from Era Living in the greater Seattle area. And Tina, thank you, first of all, for sharing your wisdom with us this hour. I know this hour is almost up. It's crazy. But I want to talk about a little bit about the questions to ask. We kind of have talked about it. When you're touring a community and when you're doing your research, what are key questions that someone should be asking?
So there are several questions. I'm going to try to hit on some of the most important ones. I would ask first and foremost, if you can see a copy of their most recent state survey. Now, in Washington State, DSHS is a regulatory body that comes in and inspects communities every year, and they're looking for any types of issues or violations to the rules of how you are supposed to be operating your communities for the.
And we learned from you, there's 178 of them in Washington State. I learned that yesterday from your director of nursing.
So you want to know that the care is good. You want to know that they're doing what they should. They're providing care the way they're supposed to be. They're protecting your dignity. They're not making mistakes. They're doing things right. You also want to know, how long has your staff been here? What is your turnover rate?
Good point.
And the reason this is important is because if you have staff that has longevity, they're better trained. They're going to know you better as you live there. They're just going to have a better relationship with their residents, with each other, and a stronger knowledge base. And that that's going to be the same person coming in to provide care on a regular basis. It's not going to be a different person every time because they're turning over. So that's important to consider. Ask about the food. What are the meal hours? How are the menus designed? Food is a big deal. If you're going to be,
it is a big deal.
Taking your meals there, you want to know that food is good. You want to try a meal, maybe two. You also want to ask about some of the other residents and the activities, because you want to make sure that there are people there that you are going to enjoy being around. You're going to enjoy their company. Let's see, other things. You obviously want to ask about costs. You want to ask, do you accept Medicaid as a form of payment? Should I run out of money? A lot of the times it's going to be no, unless you are in a very rural location, but it's worth asking anyway. It might not apply to you, but it's good to know, right?
Right.
You want to ask, oh my gosh, I have so many things in my brain, Suzanne.
Well, and I think the two thing is, what type of a care option do you have? So for example, if you have assisted living, what if you get to a point where you can't transfer from bed to chair? Can you provide that service for me? What if I have a stroke and I need special, care? Can you bring care from the outside? I think those are all questions.
Very. And what are your move out triggers? What services if I have something that happens to me and you can no longer provide care, what are my options? Will I have to move? How high a level of care can you provide? Do you have memory care if I need to move to a memory care wing, if I have a progressive dementia? These are really essential questions to ask. Do you have flexible licensing? What happens if my spouse needs assisted living? Do they have to move? Or what if I do? Do I have to move to a different area of the building? These seem like, oh, well, you're just moving from one wing in the building to the other, but do you want to go through that? Probably not.
Right. And here's the other thing. What about your family? How involved can my family members be with me? How do I keep my family in interacting? That what are ways in which that I can keep my family members informed of different things like that? Those are all things, obviously, that are good questions to ask.
Right. Will your family be involved in care conferences when things change?
Right.
Can your family come in and join you for a meal or for resident activities? How engaged can they be? Because oftentimes we want our family to be able to come in and be part of our lives.
And you
but
know
not
what?
our caregivers.
Tina, I have to say, when my mom ran out of money and she was on Medicaid, nothing made her happier than to have me for lunch. Because she was on Medicaid. I would buy my own lunch, but that was fine. But she felt like she could host me. It was a great way of giving her dignity, of not feeling like she's a charity case. Please come in and sit down. And I think that's one of the things that communities like yours do so well, of welcoming family and making sure that that our seniors have their utmost dignity, and no matter what their financial situation is. And I think that's one of the things we should really talk about too.
Yeah. Well, keeping people connected to each other. We are humans that need connection. We are social creatures. And so having that engagement with our families, with people around us, with the world, with our activities, the things that we care about, these are vital for healthy aging. We don't want to be bored and alone, for sure. We want to be actively engaged in life for as long as we can.
And that is so absolutely true. And I know that Era Living here in Greater Seattle, all of your communities are beyond amazing. I have seen so many things that you do with your residents and how you are, connecting with them. It's such a joy to come into your communities, because one of the things I always notice is when I walk in through your doors, you see people smiling. They're happy. You don't always see that in communities, but yours, they're having fun. They are enjoying life. And I think that that's just the coolest thing in the world. But Tina, I am so grateful to have you on the show this week. Thank you so much for being a part of our program.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Suzanne.
So each and every one of you can reach Tina through her website at eraliving.com. Era Living is locally owned and operates 8 premier retirement communities in Seattle, Renton, Mercer Island, Bellevue, and Issaquah. From vibrant, independent living to compassionate assisted living to secure memory care, Era Living respects and honors older adults by enhancing the quality of their lives. Learn more at eraliving.com.